Hello students, welcome to the channel. In this video, we'll solve the fourth and final writing passage of the March 2020 US SAT. Where do the Parthenon sculptures belong? In 1801, British nobleman Thomas Bruce, the Earl of Elgin, arrived in Athens, Greece to document the beautiful marble sculptures that decorated the Parthenon, a temple built in the 5th century BCE. Elgin arrived with a permit from officials of the Ottoman Empire, which then occupied Greece, granting him permission to make drawings and casts of the sculptures. The permit also allowed him to take away any pieces of stone with inscriptions or figures. So here I have the sentence, Elgin arrived with a permit from officials of the Ottoman Empire, which then occupied Greece, granting him permission to make drawings. So I can see that this part is an independent sentence. And this part is the dependent clause. So when I join an independent sentence with the dependent clause, I need to have a comma between them. So the answer should be B. If I put a full stop, then that means I should start a new sentence, and that would be wrong. If I say it granted, then I'm again starting a new sentence. So I can't have a comma between two independent sentences. That would be a comma splice error. So C is wrong. And granting would also distort the meaning. So simple comma plus granting makes sense here. The permit also allowed him to take away any pieces of stone with inscriptions or figures. After finding that many of the Parthenon sculptures had been harmed and that others were being sold to tourists, Elgin decided to take full advantage of the permit and arranged to take many of the sculptures to Britain. Some public figures, including the poet Lord Byron and the politician Sir John Newport, immediately questioned the legitimacy of Elgin's seemingly good intentions. The writer is considering revising the underlined portion. Elgin's seemingly good intentions. To them, it seemed that Elgin was stealing rather than protecting an important part of Greek culture. Right. So this kind of explains why Lord Byron and Sir John Newport questioned Elgin's actions, because he seemed to have wanted to protect the Elgin marbles, but at the same time, the fact that he transported all of them to Britain was something that rankled these people. So it makes sense to add this because it gives an explanation for why they question the legitimacy of Elgin's actions. Yes, because it clarifies the opinions of the public figures in a way that helps establish the focus of the passage. Yes, because it suggests that Greek culture was able to thrive within the Ottoman Empire. So let's come back to this question, but I think it should be A because it seems that the focus of the passage would be about why or how the legitimacy of what Elgin did was questioned. Following an investigation, a British parliamentary committee concluded in 1816 that Britain should give asylum to the sculptures. In 1823, Lord Byron sailed to Greece to support the Greek quest for independence from the Ottoman Empire. After Greece gained independence in 1832, however, some argued that the agreement Elgin had made with the Ottoman government was now totally bogus and that the sculpture should be returned. Okay, which choice provides the most effective transition between the discussion of the committee's investigation and the next event in the narrative? So the committee decided to give asylum to the sculptures, and then we know that Greece gained independence and argued that the agreement that Elgin had made with the Ottoman was no longer valid, and so the sculpture should be returned. So if you think about it, this sentence here doesn't make sense as a good transition statement because this doesn't talk about the marbles at all, the sculptures, and it kind of talks about the Greek quest for independence, which is particularly Lord Byron's support for it, which is not relevant to the discussion, right? So A is not a good answer. The concept of asylum typically applies to situations involving political refugees. No, this doesn't really connect the previous sentence to this sentence because this is just giving a definition of asylum, which is not relevant at this point. They were installed in the British Museum that same year. So this actually tells you what happened after the committee's decision to grant asylum to the sculptures. The fact that they were installed in the British Museum tells me for certain that they were now on British territory, which is why after Greece gained independence, it wanted them to be returned. So this is a good answer. They no longer had the vivid colors applied by ancient Greek artisans. Again, this has nothing to do with where they were located. So C is the best answer. Some argued that the agreement Elgin had made with the Ottoman government was now totally bogus. This is extremely informal. And so this is not a good option. Was no longer valid. This is a good option. Not okay anymore. Again, informal. Was henceforth bereft of legitimacy. This is an exaggerated option, right? It is using too many words and it is using extreme words to convey a simple idea. So the best answer is B. And that the sculpture should be returned. In 1925, a series of newspaper debates brought the issue to popular attention, and Greece has raised the question of the sculpture's repatriation with almost every British ambassador ever since. Greece has raised the question. To raise the question is to bring up a question. So D, to raise, R-A-Z-E, is to destroy something, right? For example, to raise a building, to provide space for construction. So it's not A. To appraise is to, it comes from the word appraisal that you may have heard in an HR context, which is to kind of measure how somebody did in a particular task or a particular action. And appraised, I don't think is a word, right? Because raised itself means to go up, right? So this is also wrong. Officials from the British Museum have long argued that the expertise of their curators has protected the sculptures from the elements. So here I need to decide the correct verb, and I can notice that this is singular while the other options are all plural. And the subject for this is expertise, right? Expertise has protected the sculpture, and expertise is singular. So I will choose the singular option, option A. In support of their argument, they note that the sculptures that Elgin did not remove have suffered from pollution. In an effort to beautify Athens, the Greek government constructed a large state-of-the-art museum which opened in 2009 to house the Parthenon sculptures that remain in the country. So which choice provides the most effective explanation for the action described in the sentence? So the previous sentence tells me that there were British officials who were not keen on returning the Elgin marbles, and one of the reasons they cited was that the sculptures that Elgin had not brought back to Britain have suffered from pollution. And so the Greek government constructed a large state-of-the-art museum to house the Parthenon sculptures. So this action is kind of meant to indicate that whatever sculptures that remain in Greece or the ones that might come back from Britain, they would be housed in a special museum, state-of-the-art museum, and so they won't suffer damage. So beautify Athens is not the right answer because it's not about beautifying the capital of Greece, it's about protecting the sculptures. In an effort to generate more revenue from tourism, no, it's not about generating revenue. In an effort to prove its commitment to the sculpture's well-being, right? So the Greeks were interested in proving that they would take care of the sculptures, and so they designed this museum. So this is a good answer. In order to attract more art enthusiasts to its collection of antiquities, Again, that's not relevant. We have to focus on the sculptures. So C. This museum's facilities would also be capable of housing the sculptures that are currently in Britain should they be returned. So this museum's facilities, so this museum's has to be possessive. So that's one, because it is the facilities of the museum. And this facilities has to be this spelling, right? Facilities, right? Without any apostrophe, because this is not possessive. So this museum's facilities, option B. Not museum's facility, because this indicates plural possessive. And the museum is not plural. So B is the answer. Regardless of the controversy, the Parthenon sculptures deserve a wide audience. Some argue that cultural artifacts belong in the country where they were created, while others still say that a large international institution like the British Museum is best suited to house objects that are significant to human history. In 2015, the Greek government decided not to pursue legal action against Britain. Okay, so which choice most effectively introduces the sentence that follows? So we know that the next sentence tells me that some people argue that the cultural artifacts belong to country where they were created, so which means that the marbles should be returned to Greece, while others think that the British Museum, being an internationally renowned museum, is a better place to house them. So regardless of the controversy, the Parthenon sculptures deserve a wide audience. I don't think this is about a wide audience. This is about where the sculptures should be housed, right? So I don't like A. The debate over the ultimate fate of the Parthenon sculptures continues to this day. So this is a good option because this tells me that there is still no clarity on where they will ultimately go and their ultimate fate remains uncertain, right? So this is a good answer. Many questions remain about the construction of the Parthenon sculptures. That's not the point of this paragraph. We're not speaking about the construction of these sculptures, so it's not C. The argument about the Parthenon sculptures is one of many arts-related controversies. Again, this is not a good introduction to this final concluding paragraph because it's not like we are going to start speaking about other arts-related controversies here. So B. In 2015, the Greek government decided not to pursue legal action against Britain. It opted instead for continued diplomatic efforts. Which choice most effectively combines the sentences at the underlined portion? So if I say the Greek government decided not to pursue legal action against Britain, opting instead for continued diplomatic efforts, right? Because if I put a comma here and say opting instead, then that makes sense because this part is dependent on the first part. So that would be correct. If I say instead of opting, that distorts the meaning because I'm saying instead of pursuing legal action, it opted for diplomatic efforts. So A is wrong. Option B is grammatically correct, but it's too long, right? I don't have to repeat the Greek government opted for diplomatic efforts. I can simply say opted instead for diplomatic efforts. And this makes it sound that the British opted for diplomatic efforts, right? Because I'm saying Britain which, but I need to say the Greeks decided to opt for diplomatic efforts. So it's D. As of 2018, it remains uncertain whether the Parthenon sculptures in the British Museum will ultimately reside. Okay, so the first problem that I notice is the question mark because this is part of the larger sentence. So this has to end with a full stop. So it remains uncertain where the Parthenon sculptures in the British Museum will ultimately reside. So this sounds okay. This also has a question mark. Where will the Parthenon sculptures is not correct, because when I'm saying it remains uncertain, then the verb should come after the subject. Where the sculptures will reside. So B is better. Okay, we had to answer one question. Yeah, this one. So to them, it seemed that Elgin was stealing rather than protecting an important part of Greek culture. Yes, because it clarifies the opinions of the figures in a way that helps establish, right? So yes, that is exactly what the passage is about, whether the marbles should have been brought to Britain or not. So A is the good answer. Okay, let's grade this. 34 BACBD, BACBD, ACBBDB, ACBBDB. Okay, great. So we got all correct. Hope this exercise was useful. If it was, hit like and subscribe to the channel. I'll see you guys in a new video soon. Take care. Bye-bye.